Hey folks, this is Riker, bringing you some Heroes of the Storm beginner advice on why dying is bad. Shocking, isn't it? Now, while it's obvious that dying is bad, it seems to me that it's not obvious to a lot of newer players that it's actually one of the worst things you could possibly do in the game. And of course, no one dies deliberately, or at least I would hope not, but they take actions that will lead to their deaths. Let's establish something right here. Most of the time, when you die, it's not because the healer didn't heal you, it's not because the tank didn't block for you, it's not because the other guy didn't crowd control for you. Most of the time, when you die, it's no one else's fault but your own. And that's fine. People are allowed to make mistakes. That's how we learn. That's how we grow as players. But we gotta own up to that. And if the first thing that you do when you die is blame your teammates, then you are not adopting a mentality that will help you improve at this game. Every time you die, while you're waiting to respawn, take a moment and reflect. Why did I die? Was I out of position? Did I overextend? Did I pick an unfavorable engagement? Most of the time you'll find some mistake that you made that you could avoid repeating in the future. Live and learn. With the keyword there being live and not die. Because now we're going to explain why exactly dying in this game is so detrimental. Now, the most obvious thing is that when you die, you are feeding the enemy team XP. This will help them get a level lead on you, and while one death isn't going to make a huge difference in that regard, it's not uncommon to see newer players basically feed the enemy team multiple kills. And that will add up, and that will end up giving them a level advantage. And anytime an enemy team has a talent advantage over you, and we get these talents at levels 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, and 20, those are big advantages, with the biggest being the level 10, the ultimate. There is no greater level difference than between 9 and 10. Feeding the enemy team XP puts your team at a disadvantage. The second reason, when you're dead, you're not helping your team. You're out of the game. Not only is that not fun for you to have to be out of the game for some period of time, but now there is a burden on your team to have to cover for your absence. If this was in the laning phase of the game, that 1 to 10 journey, and you were the only person in your lane, then the rest of your team is going to have to rotate someone down to fill your lane while you're gone. Because if there's no one in that lane to get the XP when minions die, as explained in this video here, then your team is going to continue falling behind in XP on top of the XP you've already fed the enemy. Not only that, but your team now has one fewer member to help get camps, get bosses, and get map objectives. Even if the respawn timer is fairly quick because it's earlier in the game, you still have to factor in that travel time. The most precious resource in this game is time. Time is what would allow a team that's behind to catch up. And so every second not spent doing something productive for the team is a wasted resource. Next, if your death results in the enemy team having a numerical advantage over your team, for example, it's now 4 blue versus 5 red, then you've basically ensured that your team can't win any team fights and has to play defensively. More often than not, it is a bad idea to engage the enemy when you're outnumbered. So by removing yourself from the game, you're limiting what your team is able to do. By the same token, the enemy team will recognize their numerical advantage, and they will try to press the attack. You are giving them the opportunity to play more aggressively, to try to force a team fight, knowing that you're a man down and will likely lose the fight. So again, dying is about the worst thing that you can do in this game. Now, some notes here. If you're playing as Murky, it's not as bad to die. That's because Murky respawns very quickly thanks to his egg, and his death only feeds the enemy team a third of a kill. So if you could trade with Murky, by which I mean you die in order to kill one of the enemy teammates, then that's actually a really good trade. In general, trading is not a good idea. If you sacrifice yourself to kill one enemy team member, then there better be a really good reason for that. The only way that's going to be a good trade is if that enemy teammate was more valuable than you. And you will very seldomly find yourself in a situation in which that's the case. Most of the time, if you die in order to kill an enemy, then there's no net gain or loss for either team. Another thing, if you see your teammates going down, don't go dying with them. Yeah, that might seem honorable, and we all saw the movie 300 and that was awesome, but hey, if you want to win this game, don't go into a fight that your team has already lost. Don't keep fighting until your whole team is dead. Now again, there are some circumstances in which dying isn't as bad as it normally is, or when it's okay to sacrifice yourself. For example, Diablo has the ability to sometimes respawn very quickly. That diminishes the impact of his death, but that still doesn't mean that you should play recklessly and just let yourself die. That said, generally, if there is one person on a team who will sacrifice himself, that tends to be the warrior. And it's not that he's intentionally killing himself, the warrior generally just has the best kit to survive, to be that last man standing to allow his team to fall back, and then he tries to pull out, or again, sacrifices himself so that the rest of his team can survive. So if you see a fight going poorly for your team, and you see the warrior start pinging retreat, then please, retreat. Even if you see him still skirting around, or maybe he falls back a bit and then re-engages, that's not a signal for you to re-engage with him. He's saying, get the hell out of here, I'm holding them off until you can get to safety. Warriors have lots of health, they have lots of crowd control, they tend to have escapes. The warrior is trying to save your team. Let him do it, don't let him die in vain. In a similar manner, if a battle's going poorly, and your teammates are starting to fall back, and maybe you're a squishy assassin, you're left in the fight, you've taken a lot of damage, and then you see the supports come back and he's healed you or he's put a shield on you, that is not a signal for go ham. That is not a signal for dive back in there. That support's coming back to offer what he can to help you get away with your life. Don't throw it away. Not unless you're gonna make a great trade. Another point, the Watchtowers. So often at the start of a game, especially on maps like Blackheart's Bay where there's a central watchtower, people like to spend the first 50 seconds team fighting over a watchtower. Okay, I get that one of the draws of Heroes of the Storm is the ability to team fight from the get-go. That's cool, that's fun. If you want to have fun, by all means. But don't get pissed at your other teammates when they don't come join you in a useless team fight. Yes, vision in this game is important, but you can always take back the watchtower 30 seconds later. Having vision in the first minute of the game isn't that big of a deal. There's little information that you're going to glean that early on that's going to be very important to your team winning. What's more important is to lane, to not miss out on any laning XP. It's fine to go for the watchtower, it's not fine to trade repeated deaths for almost a minute while minions are dying in other lanes with no one on your team there to soak. Similarly, with objectives. Yes, objectives are important, but that doesn't mean that you need to go kill yourself over them when you're clearly outnumbered or outmatched. There are rules about picking engagements, and those rules are don't pick unfavorable engagements. This rule doesn't get thrown out the window over objectives. If you're playing Cursed Hollow and you see 3 enemies at the tribute and you're by yourself, don't go in there. Maybe your mentality's gonna be, oh, I'm gonna stall them, I'm gonna delay them. Yeah, maybe you will. And then you're gonna be out of the game for a longer period of time than you delayed them. Your team just can't keep feeding in people one at a time, dying in order to delay them. It takes like 5 seconds to get the tribute, and it's gonna take longer than that for you to respawn and march all the way back over there. Similarly, if your team is level 9 and they're level 10, you're not gonna be able to contest that. They're gonna have all their ultimates, they're gonna rain down hellfire on you, and it doesn't matter how much you intended to contest that, you just don't have the tools to do so. Don't die for no reason. You don't get A for effort. There's almost always something more valuable that you could be doing with your time other than dying. Now we'll end off here by reiterating it's okay to die, so long as you make it into a learning experience. New players tend to die a lot, especially new players playing as assassins. Just remember to make it a learning experience. If you see that you're the person on your team that has the most deaths, play less aggressively. You're gonna get a feel for how squishy your character is, how easily he dies. If you're accustomed to playing warriors, and then you go play Illidan, you're gonna find yourself melting almost instantly. And that's okay, as long as once you respawn, you play a little more carefully. You've now learned, okay, I can't take that many hits. It's about knowing when to go in when you have the proper support. It's about learning when it's safe to be aggressive. Learn what the different roles on a team are, as explained in this video, and make sure that you're playing to your role, and that you're letting your teammates play to theirs. Again, if you're Illidan, for instance, and you see your team's warrior coming along, wait for him to engage before you go in. Let him go in there, tank those first hits. That's his job, that's what he's good at. He's the shield, you're the sword. He's the parry, you're the counterattack. That wraps up this guide. Thanks for watching. Leave me a comment letting me know what hero on your team you tend to see with the most deaths, and why it's always Illidan. Check out these other videos, and if you enjoyed this one, share with friends, hit like, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders.